give yourself grace, like to remind yourself you're doing a good job, you're doing the best you can. You wouldn't be here listening to this right now. You wouldn't
Yes.
be, connecting with people or trying to like figure things out if you weren't a good mom. And you have to remind yourself that you really are an incredible mom. And like you, to our point, we have our days, we have our
Mhm.
moments, and that is normal and that happens. But we're all doing the best we can. And I think at the end of the day, you just have to keep finding those moments, those wins, like you said, when you don't lose your shit or like don't forget
Yes.
don't always focus on the things that you feel like you're doing wrong.
Right.
Remember to also reward yourself for those things that you're doing right because you'll realize there's a lot more than you think.
Yo, welcome back to that Twin Mama podcast. Your girl Lauren here. And on this episode, we're talking mindfulness. We're talking staying grounded. We're talking mental wellness, which is something that is a little bit hard for us twin moms, if you know, to always keep. And that's okay. There's no judgments here. It is Mental Wellness Month. And so that's what we're talking to. I got my girl, Kristin McGee. Y'all may recognize her as a former Peloton's instructor. She was actually the homegirl that pioneered the yoga and Pilates program on Peloton. She also is still doing yoga and Pilates. She's a teacher. She's a speaker, she's a mompreneur, she's an author, and she has over 3 decades in this space and has had like celebrity clients. She is that girl. I'll also say she has twins plus one. She also had her twins plus her child later in life, which, as you know, as a twin mom, you already come as a quote unquote high risk. And then if you have your kids over 35, they like to call us geriatric. Yo, offended. But anyways, we talk about what that can feel like or how she dealt with having kids later in life and what comes with that. We talk about mindfulness practices and how to keep your sanity when you feel like you might be going a little crazy. And guess what? Even this woman who I aspire to be and practices daily routine, self-care, all the things, has moments where it's like, what the hell is going on? So I hope you learn in this episode. You definitely will. I hope you feel seen as well and like it as much as I do. Let's do it. This is That Twin Mama podcast. But hey, you don't have to be a twin mom to be here. I'm not like a regular mom. I'm a cool mom. So whether you are new, soon to be, or seasoned parent, or maybe you just hope to have kids someday, I promise you'll find something to love, learn from, or laugh at in each episode. I'm your host, Lauren Birdie. Let's do it. Welcome, everyone. Kristin today is here on That Twin Mama podcast. Hey, girl. So
Ooh,
excited that you're here. Hi.
so happy finally.
I know. I feel like I've been a fan of yours forever. And so it's just like great to like see, even though we're not in person. She's right now in Idaho. I'm in Arlington, but I feel like
Mhm.
we're meeting kind of for the
Same. I
first
know I've
time.
been a fan of yours forever. I feel like I know you. I know your girls. I know it's just so
Yes, I know. Twin moms, we find each
get
other
it.
somehow. We get it
Yep.
and we find each other and we hold it down.
Yep.
Okay. I know we're going to get into all the things that Pilates grounding, the wellness, like wisdom that you have. But before we do, I need to know like the most non-Zen WTF chaotic parenting moment that's happened for you in the past week or so.
That just yesterday happened, my lord. So my boys that are 8 now, my twins,
Okay.
Robert and
Yeah.
William, and they have a really fun friend, but he's also just like super boy energy and they all have
Yeah.
soccer practice. He comes over, I'm trying to get their cleats on and my one
Yeah.
boy's like, "No, these cleats don't fit," and he wants different cleats, but in the meanwhile, the other 2 have their cleats on, but they're running around the house and I keep trying to say, like, we've got these hardwood floors and I keep trying to say like, no, 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 like no cleats in the house, like they would have to take off their shoes if they wanted to play and run around. I wouldn't have minded, but they had to get to soccer. And here
Mhm.
they are running with cleats. And then you know how the cleats get all the like mud and grass
Yes,
caked in. So that's
exactly.
like falling everywhere on the floor. I just like mopped. And so,
Of
so
course.
finally I was like, I lost it. I felt bad.
Yeah.
I had to yell. I tried. And finally I was just like, stop. We're
Goddamn.
putting these
Yeah.
other shoes on. You guys are getting out on the field and getting that energy out. Like they to like run outside.
I feel that so much, and it's interesting because I have one boy that is my oldest, but,
Mhm.
like, my girl boys are just different than girls when they're little. Like, I feel for you, 3 boys, 2 of them being twins, like,
Yep.
just this cleats and dirtness, my girls will be like, "Oh my gosh, it's dirty. We can't. This is disgusting. Let's sit down and color," or something
Color,
like
I love it.
but not boy
None of
mom
that going
energy.
on
None
here.
of that. I empathize a little bit, but not really. Well, I'm just like I'm great to just ground us because I feel like we're all just out here just surviving, living our best life. Some of us
Mhm.
may have practices which you're going to teach us about, but I just always like to ground everybody. Like no one knows everything. We're none of us are perfect parents. And we each have
Exactly.
our days of like, whoops, what WTF. So I want to back up a little bit because you became a mom a little bit later in life. You had your oldest when you were 39, right?
Mhm.
And then you had your twins in your 40s, and I feel like there's so many different things that come with that from all over. So let me just ask you directly, how was that experience personally, physically, emotionally having your kids later on in life?
Very different, and I when I got married, I wanted to start having kids sooner, but we just weren't able to, we weren't getting pregnant,
Yeah.
and then finally started doing the IVF route, and that's when
Yeah.
I got pregnant with my first son, Timothy, when I was 39, and I thank God I had had a yoga Pilates practice up until that point
Mm.
because I feel like physically I did pretty good. I was like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, I kinda liked being pregnant." I was still
Right.
going to the gym, I was doing my yoga, I felt great. And he was, a vaginal delivery, and that was all good and everything as well. But I felt like the wisdom I had gained being an older mom was wonderful, but then kind of the energy that you lack as a younger mom where you're like, "Whoa," like, it really hits you hard, those
Mm.
sleepless nights, and you're, like, 24/7 breastfeeding, or I was anyways, and so that was kind of eye-opening, but so fully enjoyed even the pregnancy process and the whole birth process, and then being a first-time mom, it just felt incredible, especially since I had tried so hard to get
Yeah.
pregnant, and it felt
Yeah.
just like a miracle. And then, with the twins, it was funny because my ex-husband was like, "One and done, no more kids," and I
Mhm.
really wanted to have more, and I did the exact same protocol that I had done with Timothy at the Reproductive Medical Associates. The 2 embryo transfer, like they said, most likely even at your age, neither will even stick, and sure enough, they both
Okay.
yeah,
Of course.
and so
Of course.
now I'm pregnant with twin boys of all things, but that pregnancy was definitely different, like being and like,
Yes.
woo, your body changes so much. That's how I developed the diastasis, where
Yeah.
like the linea alba splits, and I had to work super hard to fix that. I felt like my pelvic floor had so much
Yeah.
pressure after they were 7 pounds and 6 pounds, 7 ounces. I went almost 39 and a half weeks. Isn't that
Wow! You went far too, because I went 38 weeks or whatever,
whoa? You went
38.2.
too.
Yes,
That's
and people don't
awesome.
understand. I mean, good to yeah, 39, that's
Most
wild.
people are like, oh, 36 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah, yep,
exactly. I mean, most twin babies, I don't know what the percentage is, are born prematurely. It's just
for
our
sure.
bodies, it's like not so the girl, that's like 2 full big babies.
We did
We
good.
did that. Yo, look at us. No,
And,
but
like,
all this
Robert was head down, baby A, and William was breech, he was baby B, but then the
yeah,
doctor was like, "We're gonna have to do a C-section," because I
yeah.
felt like they were both starting to, like, fight for the canal at the end, and so then I did a C-section with them, which was a different kind of
Yeah,
delivery. So it's
yeah,
interesting now when I work with women to at least be able to, like, grasp what it was like to have the vaginal and then the C-section,
right.
all the different complications that can come with either or both.
Yes, yes,
Um, and then, it's just was chaos at that point, having a
right.
3-year-old and newborn twin boys, and I really appreciate my nanny that is just a godsend because without a village or without the extra help, I
Yes.
would have been oh,
Yes. I mean, twins, like, alone if you have a partner, like, it's just a lie, like, it's
yes.
but with 3, then 2, you are literally outnumbered even
Yeah,
if you have a partner that is trying to do things, like,
trying to help.
it's just a whole and with a toddler too, like, I had my twins my son was 10,
I was gonna say, was he
so
helpful?
he wasn't he so this is interesting because a lot of people it was during COVID, right? And so he
Okay.
was going through so much. He was being home like
Oh, yeah.
schooled, whatever you called it, like virtual schooling. And so people would stop him often and be like, "Oh, get ready to change diapers, get ready to babysit." And I would look at them and be like, "That these are his sisters. He has a lot going on. He does not like he's not going to have to do any of those things unless he wants to."
Ew.
So like I made a very big point of that because I just did not want him to feel like this is a burden now that I'm no longer my only child, like, I don't have my mom and dad's o fun only
Completely.
attention exactly, and now I have to take care of these 2 things that I don't even know who they are, right?
Yeah,
So, he
that's too
did
much pressure on him.
yeah, yeah, so he did help, but not, like only if he wanted. He'd, like, sometimes come up and be like, "Can I read to them?" And very much very low pressure, at ease, and that's kind of how their relationship is now. It's just, like, a genuine bond versus, like, I gotta take care of my little sisters who are now tormenting him, so but
That's
even so yeah,
cool.
thank you. It was something we intentionally tried to do, but even with the help would have been great, I guess, but it's just you don't know unless you know when
True.
you bring 2 newborn babies home, like, period.
Mm.
With kids, without them, it's just such a different experience. I
Did
won't
you
even,
have
like
the table for 2?
I
That little
did not. I was gonna get that, but then I just got 2 bouncy seats because I
oh,
was
no,
like
that's 2.
somebody like told me.
Works as well.
Did you guys use the
We
2
did have
table
that little
too?
table for 2. I just remember in the early stages having these
Yes.
2 little guys sitting next to each other in this, like, little
Yes.
system, and that's when Timothy every now and then would come and help. He would, like, kneel
Right.
down next to them, and but I was similar with you where I wanted him to feel like he had his own identity. He didn't
Yes.
have
Yes.
to if he wants to be hanging out with them, he can. If
You
he needed
can.
his own little space, he could.
Right, right,
Yeah.
and then I think preparing for I talked about this with I can't even remember who, but just preparing the little like, the preparing your oldest for the twins' arrival, just
Mhm.
did you, like, talk with Timothy? Like, I'm assuming that's your oldest's, like,
Yes.
name. Did you, like did he know who they were? Like, did they have names? Like, was he ready for, like, little
I
bros coming
think he
home and everything like that?
was. I think
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember we even had a book about, like, him as a brother and, like, what he was gonna bring home
yes,
with the 2
yes,
little babies,
yes,
and also he started doing I was gonna wait, like, and wait till he went to kindergarten really pretty much for him to start school,
right.
but he ended up going to this little preschool, which was kind of actually nice because then he had his own
Oh,
little
yeah,
place to go to and friends that he could make, and
yes.
it also gave me time at home to be with Robert and William and focus on them, and then when he was home, I could focus on all it was really nice.
Yeah, that yeah, the having the something else too, because like, I
Mhm.
feel like the twins are so all-encompassing of your time and energy, especially in the beginning. You just, like, made me have, like, a little bit of a flashback, and I don't know how I feel about it, but just, like, the little reliefs that you get as a twin mom, like, when they could start holding their own bottles,
Oh my
like,
gosh, yes.
you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I think singletons, it's different, like, it's just
Yes.
different, but when you can, like, let your arm they just hold them, I remember being like, "Okay, we've hit a milestone," like, sleeping through the night was the first one, holding their own bottles, I was like, "God bless you," and then, like, crawling up the stairs or walking themselves up the stairs without the car seat.
Mhm.
Just these little things, y'all. Twin moms, you know if you know, okay? These are the things we look forward to. Uh
Exactly.
Okay, but I also wanna think a little bit more because I don't know if people realize that so many twin parents, for whatever reason, some it's because they've tried to have kids and they ended up going into, like, fertility treatments, and so they were older in life when they had their twins. Another thing, like, to have twins I'm gonna say this wrong, spontaneously, a lot of times there's a factor of being older, like,
Yes,
is a factor that ties into twins. Like, I
I
was
read that it
you know
makes easier to become pregnant with twins when you're older.
when you're older, exactly. So it's interesting because I
Was
do
yours
think there
just it just happened natural?
it just happened naturally. There was a couple of things that, like, I took out my ID recently prior to that, but I was told I couldn't have kids, and I
Okay.
went on a whole holistic journey with just, like, my diet and health because I had really bad acne, but
Mhm.
balanced my hormones to balance like, it's all connected, right? Gut health, skin health,
Yeah.
and at the end of that, they thought I went into this clinic because I was trying to get pregnant because like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sweetheart, like, you're not able to get pregnant, and we can see why." I was like, "Girl, bye. I'm actually here for my acne, but pause." And we were just going on the skin journey, right? And then just a symptom of me healing all these things, like, "Oh, you are pregnant. Oh, they're twins." I'm like, "Okay." Not to say like, I'm not a doctor, but this is just my story of what happened,
Yeah.
and it was a magical miracle. But I
So
think
cool.
about that too because you're labeled high risk when you become a pregnant mom with
Mhm.
twins, period, you're high risk. And then
Mhm.
the geriatric thing, which is so annoying and just
No.
like, I guess if you're 35 or older, they call you like a geriatric pregnancy.
Yeah.
So I'm curious from your experience, I think you were in New York, right, when you were pregnant with
Mhm.
everyone? Okay.
Mhm.
And they're probably a little bit more open, but did you feel from society or just others just being like, "Oh, you're gonna have kids at that age," or any pressures from, like, maybe the peers of your kids' parents at schools? Like, what did it feel like being just on the like, an older, quote, unquote, "mom," or does it not feel like that? Because I feel like
I
people
think
also
I really lucked out.
Yeah,
Maybe it was being in New York City because
yeah,
there's so many different
yeah,
walks of life and so many people in different ages and people just having
true.
kids on their own because they wanna have kids and
Right.
people, getting pregnant much later. Like, I think, um and maybe it was just because my energy was always younger, like, I felt like
Yeah,
all the fitness and the stuff I was around, I never really felt I still don't feel my age a lot of times, but I never really
yeah,
felt like an old pregnant woman.
yeah,
So, luckily, I didn't get a lot of that kind of backlash or criticism,
yeah,
judgment,
alright,
which is really awesome. Like, to think back now on that and realize that, none of it was it is interesting though, when you go to school pickup or drop off, I think that's when I started to notice more like the age discrepancy as I
yeah,
got, like when they were all in elementary school. And I was like, oh, there's a lot of like younger moms. There are also older moms, but
yeah.
you can start to like notice that difference.
Yeah, that's so interesting, and I think that women in general are waiting longer to have kids if they wanna have
Mhm,
kids, right? Like, just
mhm.
being career oriented, and I've
Isn't
just
that
been
wild
s
they would call it a geriatric pregnancy? That's
right,
pretty
yeah. And I just was like, "That's freaking rude," and I know some dude
yeah,
came up with that, like,
yeah,
anyway. But
yeah.
then I also just think about how much people, put this pressure on their biological clock and, like,
Mhm.
what that pressure feels like, and this is all to say, like, I mean, you're gorgeous and age is whatever. No, like, literally, you could probably run circles around my 21-year-old self, but all to say that, like, whatever pressures you feel or society is putting on you if you're a mom who is struggling or not sure, like, sure if you wanna have kids or if you have to wait. Once that you hit 35 and people are like, "Why aren't you having kids? Geriatric," like, j drown it out. I mean,
I
do
agree
you, I think, because like, I think it doesn't help when you allow those pressures to come in, right?
100%. I
Um,
totally agree. That is such good advice. There
yeah,
is no rush,
there
you know,
is
to
no rush.
Yep.
Do exactly, and don't force it if it doesn't feel right too with, like,
Mhm.
if you wanna do it on your own, do it on your own. If you don't have the right partner and you're like, Maybe this will fix things," it will not.
It will not.
It will not. It will just intensify
Yeah,
whatever the hell is there. Okay,
it's so true.
it's so true. You briefly mentioned how you healed your diastasis recti or had diastasis recti
Yes.
after twins. I wanna talk a little bit more about that. Like, how was your recovery? How did you do that? Because I feel like almost every twin mom that carries to at least the 3rd trimester probably will develop DR, period. Like,
Agreed.
just
100%.
yeah,
And I didn't even realize I had it until I remember like a month or so later, I had my really good friend who's a Pilates teacher as well. She was coming
yeah.
over. We were starting to work out together and she was like, "Ooh, shark fin." And I'm like, "Shark fin? What are you talking about?" She's like, "Shark fin because it's when
Oh,
your belly
yeah.
cones, right? When you see that kind of like bulging out." And then I looked down
Right.
and I was like, "Oh yeah, I do see that." And then I noticed she's like, "Let me check you for DR for diastasis."
Yeah.
She did like the finger check and she was like, "Whoa, like you can stick my fingers all the way in there and there's this gap." And then I went
Yes.
down this whole rabbit hole,
Yep.
research and all the different things. I remember I was using the KT tape. I was like taping that
Oh
area
my
to help
gosh.
remember
Yeah.
fascia could kind of get this idea of coming back together. There's this whole system of how you tape a DR. I was
Wow.
doing all of the breath work, like it's very, very back to basics, like learning
Yes.
how to rebreathe without the reverse breathing, learning how to let your ribs start to soften in front again because like the rib flare that we get when we're pregnant, learning
Yeah.
how the diaphragm, the pelvic floor, the breath all works together, all the
Yes.
little simple exercises you start with also learning how to relax your pelvic floor, then engage your pelvic floor, how the inner thighs are connected. Like everything is so connected, but it's also
Yes.
it feels like the Bermuda Triangle at first, like you don't even have
Right.
main awareness there. So I think it's very little by little, and it's great if you know once you have it to not do the things that can exacerbate it or make it worse.
Mhm.
What happens is a lot of people don't realize, and then they just go right back into working out, doing planks, doing sit-ups, doing
Yes.
these moves that can like put more strain. So, like, once you know that you have it, then it's, like, frustrating because it's so slow and tedious, but you have to go through all of that basic core work to rebuild
Yes.
your transverse abdominals, your inner core to support. And then for some people, if they just have a really, really like a four-finger gap or a really wide
Yeah.
diastasis and they feel like they've done everything they can, there's no shame in getting surgery. I've known friends to another fellow twin mom who ended up finally having it like a year or 2 ago because she also had an umbilical hernia, and it's been a game changer for her.
Yeah. That
Really
was me. Yeah. I had the I mean, insurance wouldn't cover it. They covered the
That's
hernia
devastating
remove
that
I
she
know,
did
it's
it.
such it's not a problem. It's not considered anything but cosmetic, no matter what
Wow.
pain it's causing you or, like, implications if it came from pregnancy, period,
Because it can
which
be
is
low back pain, it can be it
yes.
can be anything.
It could be anything. I had the hernia is what they were like, "Okay, we have to remove this, so you're going under, so we'll partially heal this." And I was like, "Well, then take away my extra skin, I'll do a tummy tuck." So,
Totally.
I
Oh, good
just
for
did it all.
you. How did
Yeah.
that go? I'm dying to hear about
Oh god, that's I mean,
it.
10 out
Amazing.
of 10, million out of 10 recommend. Literally obsessed, like, you
Incredible.
cannot tell me nothing. I was Britney
Was the
Spears, I am
recovery hard?
yes, the
Yes.
recovery was hard, like, it was but I didn't have a C-section. I think it's similar where, like,
Okay.
you can't, like, stand up for a while,
Wait, you didn't have
I
a C-section? You delivered your girls?
I did. I
Oh my
did.
gosh,
Yeah.
that's
which
crazy.
is part of the reason why my diastasis recti was so bad. So I probably didn't have as great of a foundation with you. I've always been
Well,
active,
'cause you
right?
always had
So
to oh,
yeah, because my baby B came out breech and butt first, and
oh
so
my
she
god.
broke my pelvic bone, like, it was broken.
Oh,
I
Lord.
was in the hospital for 2 weeks after that because of that, and
What?
because my pelvic floor was so shattered, right, like, I wasn't really able to build the strength I needed to even heal a diastasis
Yes.
recti, then develop this huge hernia. So, basically, my girls messed me up so daggone much where I was able to get a little bit of money from insurance to
Thank
cover,
God.
like, healing that, but most women are not in that boat, and what
Mm-mm.
really surprised me is that if you were to get it, it's they don't say it's gender-based, but, like, let's say you caused diastasis recti from lifting physically something too much, right?
Mhm.
Insurance will cover it. And exactly, and most of that time that happens to, guess, men.
Men.
So
Yep.
you can get it covered if you do it to yourself, but if you go through pregnancy, sorry, shit's on you.
We need to change that law. We need to, like,
Right?
start a coalition and
I know.
advocate for these poor women because to your point, like,
Right,
I don't even know, and I don't know for sure, but I don't even know if you can ever completely heal
right.
diastasis. I don't know if you
No,
can ever get that linea
no,
alba to exactly come back together. Once that's
no.
torn, it's torn.
It's torn.
You can do everything you can to live functionally with the
Yes,
diastasis,
yes,
possibly, but you like to your point, sometimes you can't. Like
yes.
sometimes there are and like hernias are no joke. Like that's your
Right.
organs coming out. Like you have
Exactly.
that repaired.
Exactly, and more organs can come out if you don't get it
If you
repaired, like, I
don't.
had another twin mom that, like,
Exactly.
she could feel, like, her intestines, and like, "Yeah, no, it's not gonna be covered." I was
Scary
like,
how
"Girl,
that's
what?"
wow,
Wild,
that's
wild.
wild.
So you
I
can
mean, being
do
able
things.
to explore therapy, I wish they would start to cover that more and
Yes,
give more and more women, whether you're a twin mom or not, like just the tools after pregnancy to say, like, here's where you go for pelvic floor therapy. This is what you do
right.
for like core rehab, like all of those
Yes.
things.
Yes, because I don't think we have I think we're now talking about it, like, the internet has its
Mhm.
blessing and curses because we're like,
That's true.
"Wait." You know, because because I didn't even think about having a pelvic floor therapist until it was too late, and I
Yeah,
was like, "Wait, I wish I had that on my baby registry. Forget this whatever,
exactly.
SNU, I would've figured it out. I
Yes.
would have loved a pelvic floor therapist." You know what I mean? I needed that.
Yeah.
Um, but thinking about how you were able to heal yours as much as you could, like,
Mhm.
naturally and through exercises, how did semantics play into that? Because I know that
Good
you
question.
have a new book coming out with that, like, so I wanna
Yes.
talk a little bit about that
Oh,
and
I
how
love
that.
that. Very
Yeah,
good question. So I wrote
yeah.
a book. It's the one of the For Dummies books, like the Wiley
Okay.
brand. They started way long ago, I think, even with
Yeah.
like Adobe for Dummies or like
Yes,
Computer for
yes,
Dummies way back in
yes.
the
Well,
day.
we know. This
But
audience
this
should
is
know. Yeah.
somatic exercises for dummies, and like somatic, all of that work is just mainly of the body, and it's more about working in than it is working out.
Yeah.
And it's all about getting to know yourself from the inside out so that you
Mhm.
can be your own best guide, your own best,
Yeah.
friend when it comes to healing your body. And so I think being able to, as women, sometimes we get a little disconnected and we're so busy being moms. And like you were saying, it's
Mhm.
too late all of a sudden because you're like, oh, I wasn't even paying attention to my pelvic floor. I was nursing
Yep.
twin babies.
Exactly.
But, being able to continually check in with ourselves so that we can know what's going on and be able to articulate that if we had to go to the doctor to say,
Yes.
"This really is bothering me, and I know you might say I don't need this exam, but I'm going to tell you I need that exam."
Mhm.
So I feel like somatics is a lot about getting to know yourself, and any form of exercise can be somatic in nature. It's all just your intention and how you're performing it. So you could be lying on the floor doing glute bridges, just whatever, watching TV, or you could be very concentrated, thinking about the muscles you're engaging,
Yeah.
using your breath with the workout, coordinating the pelvic floor movements with the glute bridge. I think it's all about kind of your intention around how you perform the exercise. And
Yeah.
so that's why some of this work can be so tedious because you really have to focus the entire time. You can't just like mindlessly run on
Right.
the treadmill and watch your favorite TV show. It's more about like listening to your footfall and how you're breathing,
Yeah.
the biomechanics of running. So it's very cool because any exercise or workout can become more somatic in its nature. It's just about your attention and really
Yeah.
in.
Oh, I'm so intrigued now. Like, I
Yeah,
do
I'll get
think
you a
that
copy for sure. I'll just have them
I
send
would
you
love I
yeah.
would love because I think that's just so fundamentally important for moms who are from, like, physically, like, our bodies are not hours for, like, a very long time. We're, like,
Mhm.
birthing these babies, we get the babies come out, and everybody's just like, "Is the baby healthy?" Like,
Yep.
even in Euro B is like, "Okay, we got the baby out, we'll see you in 6 weeks." "Oh, you
Exactly.
have diastasis recti?" "No, you don't. Who cares?" Or they'll gaslight you. I'm like, "Hey, something might be wrong." It's like, "No, it's fine. That's normal. Just have sex again. You're cool." Like, it's literally you have to be your own body's advocate, and
Yes.
that starts with really knowing it and, like,
Mhm.
taking the time to slow down, to maybe pay attention to that ache, your lower back ache that happens every however many hours now that you're just like, "Oh, I guess I'm just gonna live with this, it's nothing." Or, like, this slight pain in your chest that could be something like, just we
Heartache.
can't
Heart
yes,
attack. Yep.
exactly.
And
It
you
it I
you nailed it on the head too, taking the time to slow down.
slow down.
Like,
Yep.
somatics is a lot about slowing down and listening.
And that's so hard for moms, but it's so important. And I wanna get
Mm.
to, like, I love how somatics it could be it seems obviously very beneficial physically, but, like, the idea of slowing down, understanding your breath, or regulating your emotions in any way, shape, or form I feel it could be super helpful during, like, big life transitions that we all go through as moms where something may happen that we didn't expect in our motherhood planning journey. We didn't think this was gonna happen, a career change, a partner that like, is now absent, and I know that you 2 huge things that I've seen you go through with from the outside looking in, so much grace, so much beauty, so much inspiration has
Yeah,
been
appreciate that.
no, I really, really do mean it. But one, the decision leaving Peloton, which is like I think
Mhm.
probably was a big deal, and I know you're a single mother, so take me through, like, because I'm in admiration, but for those listening who might be going through something that they had to reinvent themselves in some way, or their identity has completely changed after motherhood, or they might be single parenting and that was not in the cards for them.
Mhm.
I don't know where you want to start.
No, I love what you said about
Yeah.
the also with somatics being so much
Yeah.
about the mind-body connection, and I have a whole chapter on breath work and awareness and things you can do with with meditation even.
Yes.
There's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 centering technique, which is really nice, and it's great for anxiety or,
Ooh.
when you're in the moment, when you're feeling really overwhelmed and frustrated, it's you just focus on 5 things you can see, 4
Huh.
things you can hear, 3 things you can feel,
I'm
2
like
things
writing this
you
down.
can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. So you use your 5 senses to
Mm.
ground yourself in the moment. And even just by doing that, by taking the time to like slow down and, do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it's great for our kids as well. Like, what are
Yes.
things you can see right now? What are 4 things you can hear? It just brings you into the moment immediately, helps you feel safe. There's so many amazing breathing exercises, like even box breath, where you can inhale for a count of 4, hold your breath for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, and then keep the exhale for or stay empty for that count of 4.
Yeah.
So a lot of the breath work, a lot of the mindfulness, I have a twice daily meditation practice. So 20 minutes first thing when I wake up, 20 minutes kind of midday. It's that check in with myself, what's going on. My mind might be running the whole time, but still, at least I'm just sitting there with myself and
Yeah.
kind of processing it. It's like the wash machine, like the spin cycle, you just let it
Yeah.
eventually there's a time where it's gonna feel easier. But like my favorite meditation teacher, his name is Light Watkins, and he would say it's fine to get lit, lost in thought. Like get lit,
Oh,
got it. Because everyone
love
always
that.
catches themselves when they meditate,
Right. Right.
I'm thinking I'm not meditating. He's like, get lit. It doesn't matter. Like just be nonchalant about it because then that's when you finally kind of drop in
Yes,
and
and I
you're not
love that you're
judging
making
yourself or trying to stop it.
yeah, and that's so relatable and, like, realistic too, because I think that sometimes we lose some moms or people who are like, "I can't meditate. I don't have this, like, beautiful altar, Buddha altar, or I'm not into, like, this thing or, like, a mat and, like, candles," where I
Mhm.
think there was on I don't know what interview I heard you on, but you were talking about, like, maybe the beginning one was in your bed or something or, like
Yeah. I just wake up
yeah.
and sit in my bed. Yep.
And, like, I was and I've been recently doing that, starting maybe a few months ago, but I too thought that I had to be in a different room and, like, a space, where
Or
if I'm just, like, in the dark in my bed, I just put my headphones in, I was like, "Oh, this is super doable." Like, what?
right.
And it helps so much the days that I do intend it doesn't have to be 20 minutes, sometimes just
Doesn't.
5
Maybe
minutes,
5
like
minutes.
exactly, exactly, and so some of the things that you're naming, like, I think it just makes it more, like, tangible for maybe someone that has never done that, and it doesn't have to be this, like, like, free to be you and me, like, it's not necessarily that I think that sometimes our, like, Gen X millennial brains like, "I'm not like that, I got shit to do." I'm like, "No, you got shit to do, this'll help you, and if you are thinking while
Exactly.
you're doing it, it's
There's
okay,
like
so
that
lit."
quote that's like, "If you don't have think you have 5 minutes to sit in meditation, then sit for an hour."
Yeah,
Like,
exactly,
because it
exactly.
actually, like, gets you're more productive once you just,
Yes.
like and you're right, 5 minutes, 3 minute wherever, whenever.
Whatever.
Like, he would even say, do it at school, like, when you're waiting for your kids at pickup, if you're on the bus, if you're on the train, if you're in the airplane, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be
Yes.
some
It
big formal. And so that's helped me quite a bit. And I
yeah,
the Peloton thing was so, so hard because
yeah,
I loved that job more than
yeah.
anything. And I went to New York University as an acting major.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I discovered yoga.
Oh,
And so
cool.
to have a job like Peloton where it's like the best of both worlds, the production and the acting and the
Yes,
on camera combined with yoga and meditation and Pilates and the things I love. And not to mention the people were awesome and my
yes.
colleagues and just the work itself I loved. And it was the first time I'd ever had a salary job, like the first time
Right.
ever I had benefits. Up until that point, I was running around the city. I would teach freelance. I would do so that was like
Yeah,
really huge as well. But then it was just like circumstantial
yeah,
because I did get divorced. I didn't have a dual income in New York City. New York City is super expensive. Peloton shoots in New York City, the studios in New York City, and then they were like restructuring some of the workloads for instructors and everything, and it just like it didn't work
yeah,
financially for me, which was very frustrating. But also, when one door closes, another opens, and it's
yeah.
kind of cool to be like reinventing myself and then thinking
Mhm.
about what can I do next now as a mom of like what could I do that would be sustainable for me and the boys, but also still give me that freedom and flexibility to be with them. That was the other great thing about
Yeah,
Peloton is that I mean, I did have some like super early mornings I'd have to wake up and get there, but it also was a nice like I had space still to be with my boys. I could always
right.
be there for most of the time, be there for school pickup. And so it
Yeah,
helped me realize like, okay, in my next chapter, I definitely want to have a job that is flexible enough I can be really present with my boys, but I can also make a good enough living. So it's fun.
yeah.
There's a actually speaking of my next chapter, this website that my friend started and asked if I'd be a wellness expert on it. It's called My
Oh,
Next Chapter, and it's for divorced, either people thinking about divorce, in the
yeah,
divorce, or post divorce. And kind of like with diastasis, divorce, it's never too late to like you could be 5 years post-divorce and still be going through stuff, or you could be 5
yeah.
years post-baby and still have, things to figure out and fix,
Yes. So
so
true.
it's a cool resource and website for people to go to if they're in
Yeah,
any one of those stages because it has an expert in each field. So you have a financial advisor, you have a therapist, you have the wellness, you have
wow, yeah.
stylist, even you have a dating expert, like, when you have to get back into the game,
That's
you have
amazing.
like
Yeah,
a legal expert because there's so much to try and figure out. So that's
yeah,
one thing I'm doing, which will be really cool. And I
yeah,
get to go back into person, like I did miss that element at Peloton of having the in-person, like touching people, adjusting
yeah,
people, really just being one-on-one with people and talking to them about what they need because
yeah.
Peloton, you're mainly on camera. You could reach more people virtually, but you didn't have as much of that in person. So that's nice too.
Yeah. I love how, like, there's this, like, almost this theme of mindfulness no matter what it is. If it's, like, physically you realized you had diastasis recti or your Pilates friend was like, "What is this shark?" Whatever you called it, fin.
She called it
Right,
like a
where
shark fin, like a little
yeah.
cone, you know?
A little coning, which I don't even think that, like, that's something that they really check for when you go into your 6-week,
Right.
post-op, like, it was something that, like, you or a friend, someone had to be very in tune and aware of or mindful of, like, "This is different about my body now, like, let me pay attention to what it needs." Similarly, with Peloton, it seems like you had done so much great work, right? Also knowing exactly what you loved about it and what when it was time to, like, say whatever, but the fact that you, like, loved the people, like, the
Mhm,
acting, the, like, helping others, like,
mhm.
knowing that about yourself to be like, "Okay, my next venture needs to have X, Y, and Z, and I love being with my boys." Like,
Yes.
having that like, thought and knowledge about it. And I
Mhm.
imagine even with your divorce, like, just knowing, like, "Who am I outside of this partner, this person, this
Yes.
parent?" And I just it's really hard, I think I just commend you for doing that, like, I don't know if you realize I think that in of itself is so inspiring, and I think there's a lot of moms that struggle, like, even my girlfriends, I'm like, "Hey, what's your hobbies?" or "What do you like to do?" Like, I just can't think, "What? No, coffee." Like, they don't have answers to
Yeah.
those questions because they don't know what like, they don't even know if they're like, what their breath feels like. They have never slowed down and, like, check, "Am I breathing?" Or drink water, like, basic needs. So, I ask
Yes.
all this is, like, if I'm sure this has been obviously a lifelong practice of you for you because
Mhm.
of just the type of work you've done. But for maybe moms just starting out or just even too busy, if you're listening to this podcast, think you've done half the work. Like if you're doing
True.
something for yourself where you're listening to this far, what advice would you give some moms about the importance or how to start out if they're like, "Girl, I ain't got time. My to-do list is my identity, okay? I got shit to do. I got people to feed. That's how I show my as successful." You know what I mean? What would you say to those types of moms? Because I know there's a lot listening.
There's some sure, and I think this it's interesting. It's the next thing I've been working on as well is this whole idea of treating yourself, and
Yeah.
not like with treats, although the treats play a role, but the acronym of truly realizing everything is already there. So
Mm.
I think when you were saying earlier about slowing down and tapping into ourselves, like everything, I used to say this at the end of a yoga class, everything you could possibly ever want, have, or need is right here inside of you. So
Mm.
us moms, like realizing that, like when we slow down and listen to ourselves, there's so many things already inside of us that we just are kind of either squelching down or not listening to or not really paying attention to or think we don't have the time to. But in reality, how we treat ourselves is how others will treat us. And how we treat ourselves is how we're going to also treat others. So I know
Mhm.
if I'm treating myself well, I'm waking up, I'm meditating, I'm listening to my body, I treat my boys so much better. I'm less reactive, I'm more responsive, very I'm open, I'm able to sit there and be with them and present, and then, others start to hopefully will, like, going through the divorce I went through and never realizing all this stuff that I'd lost myself during that time and allowing someone to treat me in a ways that wasn't really like respectful or kind. So I think that there's like this whole, as you start to treat yourself better,
Yeah.
I think for us moms, it's like if we made an absolute goal of having to give ourselves one treat every day, no matter what it is. And don't think of it as always just being like the dark chocolate and
Yeah.
wine, whatever.
Right.
Like you
Right.
have to mix it up. Like one day it could be a call with your best friend, one day it could be a
Yeah.
walk, one day it could be like listening to the birds sing in the morning, like simple little things, whatever.
Yeah.
One day it could be like smelling an aromatherapy or buying yourself a new like I just think
Your
it's really
thing.
good if
Yeah.
we like think about not putting ourselves first in a like selfish way, but like the whole oxygen mask way. Like what am I
Yeah.
gonna do today that's going to really feed my soul? What am I gonna
Mm.
do to treat myself? Whether it's a small treat, a big treat that you're saving up for, and then
Yeah.
I think that really helps set the tone for, and then you might start to discover like, oh gosh, I really enjoyed playing the piano. I haven't done it forever, and I'm going to start
Right.
doing that as a mom, no matter what. Like and then your kids are going to actually be like, wow, mom's a badass piano player.
Yes.
They're going to
Yes.
see you
Yes.
do things
Yes.
yourself finally, and they're going to love it. They're going to be
Yes.
so into it. And then
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's the way to start. Like just little by little, day by day, like give yourself a little treat.
I love that so much, and I think it's so important too. I always say in a way, like, I've always loved, like, acting and doing, like, performing and things like that. I went to school not for that. I thought I was gonna go down a very different road, but, like, I would always take, the drama courses in college. Like, it was just something I loved to do, but
Mm,
it wasn't it was not a career path that my parents, who were, like, PhDs and lawyers, were like, "No, you're not doing that," right? And it wasn't until becoming a mom, which in a way, on paper, people would think that this is going to limit your ability to do what you love to do.
mhm,
It was almost like the girls became a muse of mine, like, it was, you know what I mean? It happened in a way, obviously in isolation, like, it was COVID, so there was just, you really had to get, like, grounded and mindful of, like, there was not that much you could do. In a way, you were isolated to listen to those thoughts, listen to whatever, like, desires, because like, the world was kind of shutting down. But then
mhm.
I had these beautiful little souls that were, like, looking at me and, like, I don't know, it lit something in me of just doing creative things, mainly just to communicate what I was going through, and the outlet that I chose to do it was through skits or reels or sharing, and it lit something that continued to now be my career path. And that's all to say that, like, yes, my identity is very much tied to motherhood. I love, love, love being a mom. But what is that creative outlet? Is it your piano playing, right? That your boys are gonna see one day and be like, "Yo, mom's a badass piano." "Okay, Alicia Keys, Alicia who?" Right? Or like, "Oh," you know what I mean? Like, my mom's, like, really cool and funny on these things. Like, she's, like, the whatever comedian, like, that they'll look up to, and I think that's what brings me so much joy and passion where I'm like, "I
Mhm.
have to do that because I didn't see my parents do that." And when we left the nest and everything's gone and it gets quiet, they don't have much.
Then what
And
exactly.
exactly, then what do you do?
I
Ah,
love that you followed that voice inside of you and that
yeah.
passion, and because even when we first started talking, I was like, "You
Yes, you said
a
that.
good actress, you need your own show, you're, like,
Oh,
so comedic." I mean, my boys love watching your
oh
I
my
think you're genius, and you're making it so lighthearted for all of
yeah.
us who sometimes we're in the trenches, and, like, the best thing people can
Yes.
give each other is that lighthearted comic relief where you just laugh
Right,
and you
right,
let down
right.
your guard and you feel good and you're like, "Oh god, I feel that shit too," you
Yes,
know?
exactly, and I love how you're even
Well, which is awesome.
yes, yes, and I honestly didn't know that you had gone to school for acting, so now that compliment, I'm like, thought of like, I that means the world. I'm like, "Okay, let's know what she's talking about." She said that was
Awesome.
anyways, I really appreciate that. But also just thinking about a lot of people ask, like, "How do you do it all?" Like, I'm sure they
Mhm.
ask you, like, "How do you do it?" Like, "How do you have time to do this?" And it's not it's work. For me, it is a little bit of work. It's a way I do income, but I didn't always make money from showing up online or being,
No.
like, a creator. I freaking love doing it. It's my creative outlet. It's like a
Mhm.
non-negotiable, just like
Mhm.
your health should be a non-negotiable. So I would, like, encourage moms, like, don't try and be someone else. Like, I'm
True.
not gonna show up online like the typical mommy vlogger, trad wife. I It would take me years to figure out how to do that. Like, I it doesn't come naturally. Find out what makes you light up on the inside and just do it. And that in turn may turn into something or not, but, like, it feeds you in a way that makes you a better mom, a better partner, a better whoever you have to be,
Mhm.
caretaker, I think, in life.
I love how you said that. It's like one of those things where that's kind of how my yoga practice has always been,
Yeah,
where it's like it's a non-negotiable, like, I couldn't
right,
imagine not doing it. It's just
right.
something like you were saying, like, it's there, it's part of me, that's who I am, and that's what I do,
Yeah,
and it's fun. Like, I couldn't
yeah.
imagine not doing it, and that's when it really shines through too, and that's when it's so authentic. Because
Yes,
to
and
your
that's why
point,
people
I'm
love
trying to like, I couldn't be Betty Crocker in the kitchen and make these
no.
incredible food blogs that some people do. I'm like, "Wow, man, you make
Yeah,
eggs amazing." I try and take a picture of something, and I'm like, "That looks just
right. I've already taken a bite out of it. I'm like, "Forgot
I'll
this."
share some of my recipes every now and then, but it's not gonna
Right,
be like, you know.
right, exactly. And so you are leading a teacher training right now, correct? Or am
Yes,
I
yes,
okay, so
I'm
tell me how
sending a
that's
yoga
going for
teacher
you.
training, and
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
so exciting for me because I want to really be able to give other people now the tools to teach because it's
yes,
changed my life in so many ways. And my yoga teaching has taken me in so many cool directions and brought me to this place. And so it's my first ever though, and I'm relearning a lot of the stuff I had to learn when I first became a
right.
teacher. So that's fascinating and great and
Yeah,
humbling. And I think that's good in life too, to always stay curious and realize, there's a lot to constantly learn. And
yes.
so I'm doing it with there'll be a group of some in person, but then people who can't come in person can do it remotely, which is cool. And hopefully this is just the start of more. Like if it goes
Yeah.
really well, then I can offer something like this annually or like who knows, eventually you'll culminate in some cool retreat somewhere in
Yes.
Costa Rica or who knows.
Sign me up. I
That
would
would be
totally do
awesome.
that. That would be amazing. Literally, if you do that, I will be your first person
And
to
you're
sign
coming.
up. Yes, I'm coming. Say less. Um, okay, I wanna, like I know we've talked, like, a lot and about so many different things, but I wanted to go back just momentarily, just add whatever you wanna share, because I do know that there are just so many moms who I have reached out to me saying that it feels either they are a single parent raising twins or more, or it feels like they are because their partner is just not fucking showing up.
Yep.
Like they thought they would have a village and maybe it was their friends or their mom or whomever. It's just very lonely and they're doing it all on their own. And I think particularly when you have your partner where it's like you made these with me, right? Or like they maybe their partner doesn't respect the work of a mother. Like, what did you do all day? Did you do anything? Like the stay-at-home mom, people not thinking that's hard work, which I cannot even say that is the hardest thing to ever do. Like,
Yeah,
maternity leave was a freaking, like, going back to work was a break after I had to
totally,
be home for mat leave.
totally.
But for someone going through that, because I just you may not have it figured out yet either, but, like, is there any advice or things that you have done to ground yourself or to not, like, because I would be petty as shit, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. I would like to think I'm not this mom, but I feel like I would be like, "Your dad ain't shit." Like, you it'd be like it'd be hard for me to be present and not be my best self when I'm so mad at someone that might look exactly like my child or what have you. So,
Mhm.
any advice for any moms that might be struggling with either single parenting, co-parenting, or what that's looked like for you or what you've learned?
I think it's really challenging and it can feel isolating to your point where sometimes, especially if you're home all day long with the kids and then you're like, oh, look, it's like sometimes there's not just that like validation, or someone to
Mhm.
say like, "Wow, you've done such an incredible job all day." And I notice even more so now so I had this incredible nanny, Demarest, and she was like my lifeline and she was so incredible with the boys.
Yeah.
And she was like my second parents. Like she would do so many incredible things. And then
Bless
when I
her.
had to leave the city and financially I couldn't afford the city
Yeah.
and like and now I can't afford extra help, it's me and the kids, and it's like, you realize all those little things, like, Damaris was one of those people who would, like, fold laundry, organize drawers, clean the
Yes.
whatever, the kitchen when if the kids were at school and you realize all those little things were like, it's just me. Like, I'm the only one who can
Mhm.
do the cleaning, the laundry, the cooking, and the this, the that, the that. Like, even my boys the other day, I was like, "We're a village. Please put your stuff in the hamper. Don't wanna put your stuff in the hamper anymore."
This is the village.
So it's kind of full on, full time
Yeah.
all the time. And so like kudos to all people who are out there, even when you have a partner, it can still feel like
Mhm.
full time all the time. And so I think again, that's where it comes back to kind of like any way, shape, or form that you can find those little treats that you still
Yes.
don't lose sight of yourself and give yourself one thing a day that you can just be like, okay, this is even my 5-minute cup of coffee where it's just me and I can give something to myself or the bath at the end of the night, or,
Mhm.
book the dumb foot rub when you can, or
Yeah.
manicure,
Yeah.
pedicure. I know it's like it seems like you don't sometimes it's also a worth thing, like, you don't think you're worthy of it or you
Yeah.
deserve it, but you have to start building that, like, those internal confident skills up. Like, "Yes, I deserve
Yeah.
this. Yes, I am worthy of treating myself to something,"
Something.
and you show up better for your kids. And then also, I think the more you stay, like, in your own, like, lane, like, it's so hard sometimes to not want to, like, get frustrated or project outward, but the more I
Mhm.
keep working on my own self and just staying in my own lane and doing what's right for me, and the less I think I feel frustrated or upset
Yeah.
at the outside, because again, like, if you're with a partner who's not helping out at all, that's really frustrating. At the
Yes.
end of the day, like, you can't control what they're gonna do. You can
Exactly.
voice your opinions and ask for help as much as possible, and at some point, if it just never gets to that point, then maybe you are like, "Well, maybe I would be better off on my own," but
Yeah.
I think that it's like that realization where, like, I can only do so much when it comes to other people. So
Yes. You can
constantly
yeah.
work on what you can control and do for yourself.
I love that, and it's so much easier said than done, right? But,
So
like,
much easier said than
understanding,
done.
like right, but, like, it really is true, you can't I had an episode on resentment,
Oh,
and
that's a good one. I'm gonna listen to
yeah, yeah, I'll link it below, but it really was like I had an aha moment in therapy where she was like, "Resentment is really on you." Like,
Mm,
and I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, "No, I they're not doing X, Y, and Z." It's like, you can't control what they do. You can communicate what is wrong, right? How
yeah,
you're feeling. And if they don't do that, you can't get their arms to do it, right? Like resentment is when you don't communicate and you're just mad that they're not doing something or showing up. But once you communicate, if they're choosing to still not respect it, then that's a different issue than being actually resentful.
true.
Like if resentful is like you've communicated and you had not communicated anything, but you're harboring these feelings about they don't ever get up in the morning and I need help with this and they never do anything, but you haven't really fully communicated to your partner what those needs are. Once you communicate those needs, if they're still not doing it, then that's another conversation, honey.
Yep.
That might be like, you don't respect me, right? But that's not being resentful.
Mm.
And once you realize you really can only control your emotions and how you react to what other people do, it's it's empowering. At first, it could feel frustrating. Like you, as a mom, we want to control all the things.
Yeah.
It just makes our life easier. But if you can release that, it's like, okay, I'm gonna be the best emotionally regulated mom I can be today, and that might just mean that, like, this is gonna be my little treat for today, or I'm going to let this go, or this person's gonna do this. The house is a mess, I'm gonna let this go, but this is what I can control is my woosah, my little I loved your
I
box
like
breathing.
that. Oh, yeah, the box breathing
Yeah,
is
yeah,
great.
yeah, what were you about to say?
And, oh, well, I love that what also you were saying about like, sometimes I get to the point where because 'cause I've always been such a perfectionist and I want
Yes.
everything
Virgo,
Virgo,
Virgo.
exactly, you know it. And
Yep.
it like the good enough, like
Yes,
I swept up under the table because there was crumbs everywhere and I thought I should do the whole mop and I was like, That's good enough."
enough,
Because they're
exactly.
gonna come back and make 10 times more crumbs again later. So I think
Exactly, they're gonna
also, especially if you're a single parent, knowing like, "You know what? It's good enough." And my mom always is like, "At the end of the day, the boys aren't gonna remember if the house is clean. They're gonna remember if
your heart.
you played baseball with them in the backyard. And
Yes,
remember if you were doing puzzles with them." They're not
yes.
gonna be like, "Oh, my mom had the cleanest house on the block," So I was like,
No, exactly.
"Good." That, like, reminds
Yes.
me, like, what is important.
Yeah, or they're gonna remember if you just were okay. Like,
Yeah,
I remember specific
that's
moments
it.
when yeah, like, was she okay?
Yeah,
Was she freaking out, stressed out because she could barely all these different things where it's
yeah,
I think kids are just they're simple and
they
we
are.
make them overly complicated, but they're really simple
They
in
just
so
want
many
to be
ways.
happy and
Exactly,
yeah,
and love. That's
love
really all they want.
that love. You're
They
right.
want that love, and I love the thing that you were saying too. I'm gonna use that because I'll just to bring it back to the beginning for 1 second. You had mentioned, like, the 5 things that you can, like, see,
Yeah.
uh,
5
and
things,
it
4 things hear, 3 things touch, 2 things smell, 1 thing taste.
And I had someone on our podcast, John Fogel, a couple of weeks ago. He's talking about emotionally regulating children
Okay.
and how trying to find, like, if your kid's in a really big emotional moment, like, find, like, the colors of the rainbow.
Oh, I love
Because what it does, it, like, takes our brain out of whatever it's doing to do that activity of finding 5 things you can see.
mm,
It literally makes us do something with our brain where we can't hold both at the same time. This
exactly.
rage or whatever, just, like, combobulation and do that activity. And I think, like, it's so simple, but our brains we're all human, so, like, the fact that it could work for adults, just to me is, like, a mental note right now because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, if I can get to the point where I'm, like, thinking, 'What can I see? What can I f'" I think I can now be right, I won't
Yep,
scream, maybe, instead, you know
exactly.
what I mean?
Or like the peaceful fingers. I don't know, these like the
Oh,
peace begins with me. Peace
and
begins
you do this?
with me. So I'll like
Oh,
do the peaceful fingers. Like I have to remind myself, peace begins with me. Like if my boys are frustrated and I escalate, they'll escalate. But if I
okay.
stay calm, they'll eventually calm
Feel it.
down. And it might not be right away, but like, that
It's
whole
true,
like
though.
where you start
Yes.
to like escalate and then the next thing you know, but instead I'm just always like, peace begins with me. Like I just gotta relax.
I love that, and I love that, and I think, like, when those moments I do lose my shit, I always apologize, it never feels
Same.
good, right? But the moments that I don't, I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I'm a good mom," and then I might lose my shit the next 5 minutes, but still, with that win, I feel freaking awesome, and, like, I
Yes.
just think yeah, I don't take that lightly, even little things that you can remember, it might not just be, like, breathing, it could be peace begins with me, I thank you for that because that's super
It's
awesome,
a good
and
one.
I'm
And you're
gonna
right,
use
it's
it.
huge. Like you don't like
Yeah,
yesterday when my son I couldn't get his hair. I don't know, like he's into his
yeah,
hair now all of a sudden. I was like,
yeah,
"Oh,
yeah,
girls
yeah,
would be the hard ones, but you're the one who's
yeah,
like
yeah.
blowing his hair a certain way and he's
Yeah, they want to be
mad at
big.
me
Yeah.
and he screams, runs out the door, and I just kind of like let it go. And you're right. I was kind of like,
Mhm.
good job, Kristen. You didn't like react. You just let him,
Yes,
but I was like, wow, I can't
yes,
believe I did that. And then last night I was yelling about the
yes,
soccer cleats.
yes.
That's why we have to
A win is
realize
a
we're
win.
like
Yeah,
multidimensional and we're not always gonna have our shit together, but we're
yeah.
learning. And I love the fact that you said, like, when I do get upset, I'll admit it. I'm sorry I yelled at
Yeah,
the cleats. Like, we're all human.
exactly. We're all human. Okay, curious, current mom hack that you probably wouldn't tell others you do or brag about, but it works, that you might be doing?
Oh gosh.
I know, this is a surprise.
That's a really good one. You know what I've been doing a lot of
Yeah.
times is like, Jess Sims, she's always the you get to crew on Peloton. I love her.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
she would always change everything from I have to I to I get to.
I get to.
And so,
Yep.
like to the boys, like, you have to brush your teeth. It's more like you get to brush your teeth now, and you get to notice how amazing your teeth feel. I'll, like, make them,
Yeah.
like, slide their tongue over their teeth and, like, "Look how amazing your breath smells now," so I'm trying to make it, like, as opposed to them always feeling like, "You have to
Yeah.
do this, you have to do that." It's like, "Oh, you get to go to soccer now, guys. You get to do this now."
Ooh.
It's like her get to thing has really gotten me even help, like, I'm like, "I have to go for a run." I'm like, "Oh, I get to go for a run.
I get to
I've
run,
got
yeah.
good lungs. I can move my legs," like, so I feel like
Right.
even with kids, that's really helpful because I think so often we get into these traps of like, "Oh, we have to do this now. We have,"
Yeah.
even like silly things like kids are so afraid of going to the doctor because it's like, "Oh, you have to go to the doctor."
Yeah.
But instead, if you're like, "Oh, you get to go to the doctor, you get to find out if
Yeah.
your heart's beating and your lungs, everything's
Yeah.
working right."
Yeah.
Like,
I love that. You should be bragging about that because that's a good one. Mine is not good.
yours is not good. Oh, come on. I'm sure yours is great.
No, mine's threatening. It's like, "Oh, you're gonna get, like, nightmares if you don't go to bed right now." Mine's working, but I'm like, "I hope I don't, like" actually, luckily, they don't have night terrors, but mine is, like, not good. That is what a lot better. You get to do something, you get to do this,
You
or,
get to
like,
do
I'll just
something now.
yeah, yeah, you get to
Yeah.
do something. I don't
I
have
mean,
to
it's not
brag about
not always easy when it's like you get to do your homework.
right,
It's usually
right,
like you
but
get
you
to do your homework, but now it's like you
right.
get to do your homework. We get to
But the
figure out
teeth
what's cool
brushing
about school.
the teeth brushing is brilliant, and yeah, and I was, like, just threatening about the Easter bunny. I'm like,
Oh,
"I that's
that's
my
so
go-to."
funny. Oh, I know,
It's
like any holiday that's coming up.
I know. I'm like,
Getting their
"Boom."
presents, you're not
Yeah.
getting clothes, you're like, right?
That that's such, like, my '90s style default
Oh
parenting pattern
gosh, no,
is
it's
like,
same. We grew up
we
with
love
that same thing.
we
Yeah.
grew up with it, but I'm gonna try "You Get To" instead.
And see if
Oh my
it
god.
works. It's
And
just
see if it
like fun
works.
to have,
We'll report back.
right?
Kristen, this has been so amazing.
Oh,
I
I love
think before I loved, like, connecting with you, like,
same.
all twin moms, but I'm gonna really be using some of your resources that you've even shared on this call.
Cool.
When you have your Costa Rica retreat, I'm
We're
there. I
there.
can't I'm there. Somatics for Dummies, we'll link it below, but
Yep,
please
we'll
send
get
it
the
to
book
me.
to you.
I would love, love, love. Is there anything that we haven't discussed yet that to the mom surviving, the twin mom surviving, the mom of multiples of boys surviving, the single mom surviving that you might want them to know or final piece of advice?
Just to give yourself grace, like to remind
Yeah.
yourself you're doing a good job, you're doing the best you can. You wouldn't be here listening to this right now. You wouldn't
Yes.
be, connecting with people or trying to like figure things out if you weren't a good mom. And you have to remind yourself that you really are an incredible mom. And like you, to our point, we have our days, we have our
Mhm.
moments, and that is normal and that happens. But we're all doing the best we can. And I think at the end of the day, you just have to keep finding those moments, those wins, like you said, when you don't lose your shit or like, don't forget
Yes.
to don't always focus on the things that you feel like you're doing wrong.
Right.
Remember to also reward yourself for those things that you're doing right because you'll realize there's a lot more than you think.
100%. I could not stress that enough more because we do. If we even make it through the day and the kids are asleep, they had a meal,
They
could have
have
been all
you're
chicken
right.
nuggets.
Look
You
at that roof
you
over the
that's a
head,
win.
meals
That's a win.
in bed.
Yes.
Exactly.
Perspective and gratitude is all a
Totally.
total thing.
100%.
Kristen, where can our listeners find you to follow along all the things you got
Kristen
going
McGee
on?
on Instagram, Kristen with
Okay.
an I, and then I have my website, KristinMcGee.com, and I write on Substack under
Oh,
Kristen.
yes.
Like I'll just do
Okay.
like Monday affirmations, and then every now and then I'll post
Yeah.
another thing, just like life events or what's happening, like supplements I'm taking, things like that.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay,
So
I'm going to subscribe to that
thank
as well.
you.
We'll link that all below. But again, Kristen, this has been
Awesome. Thank
amazing.
you so
You're
much.
such a gem. You all, that has been another episode of That Twin Mama podcast. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you in the next one. And that's a wrap for this episode of That Twin Mama podcast. But before you go, let me tell you how you can keep this village growing. First things first, are you subscribed? If not, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe or follow button wherever you're listening so you never miss a new episode. We're streaming on all major platforms, so let's make it official. Secondly, let's stay connected on socials. Follow us on That Twin Mama podcast on Instagram for short form relatable content, and follow us on YouTube at That Twin Mama podcast for entire episodes in all of their glory. And lastly, and this is a big one, if you liked what you heard today, please leave a review. Your 5-star love means so much to me and the team behind the scenes and helps us to keep going. It also helps us to find parents like you who need to listen to these episodes, which mean the world. So until next time, take care of you, take care of your crew, and remember, you're doing an amazing job. See you soon. Peace.